Hello, my name is Howard Innes and I'm from Amphibian and Reptile Conservation, and we're in a woodland on the Hampshire-Dorset border, and today we're going to be talking about how you can manage your woodland to encourage more reptiles. So many people might think that woodlands are not the natural place for reptiles to be because often it's quite a closed canopy environment with not much light, and we all know that reptiles need heat. But it's really important because anywhere that's open within a woodland can actually be excellent habitat for reptiles. And with populations becoming more and more fragmented and really struggling in the wider countryside, having reptiles established in woodlands with those open areas is incredibly important. It's really important for the species that can subsist in these open areas within woodland. Right, reptiles, Barry. When did you see your first reptile here? How long after you started the management work?
About 3 years after we bought the woods and started clearing some areas, I had a big log pile that I was turning into charcoal, and as we cut our way through this wood pile, a big grass snake came out.
Fantastic.
And that was very inspiring. And then shortly afterwards I started to see occasional slow worms, and so then I started to spread tins around the woodland in areas that I thought would suit them. And now I see tens of slow worms and several grass snakes most times that I visit the woods under those tins.
So there's a few things you're going to need in a woodland to make it attractive for reptiles. So one of the key elements is food. Obviously they've got to have something to eat. Now let's focus on grass snakes. Grass snakes predominantly eat amphibians. And where do amphibians breed? They breed in ponds. So having some form of water body as part of the woodland or close to it is definitely going to be critical for grass snakes. So this pond here, it would support newts, it will probably support frogs and possibly toads as well. All of those are really good prey species for grass snakes, and they would spread once they've bred and come out of the water. They would spread through the woodland, and that's where the grass snake is going to be hunting for them. Grass snakes might come down to the pond as well and hunt there, but food is a vital element in the management of the woodland to enable reptiles to be there, and for the grass snake that means amphibians and it means water bodies. Right, so the number one thing that reptiles need is warmth. They need that because they need to maintain a body temperature that's equivalent to ours, but they can only do that by either lying in the sun or lying underneath something that's exposed to the sun. So if you want reptiles in your woodland, you have to have plenty of good open areas. They're not going to exist in closed canopy woodland. It's just not going to be warm enough. So this sequence of coppicing that Barry's been following is absolutely perfect, and it means that you get open areas like this that are exposed to the sun and that will allow the reptiles to maintain the body temperature that they need to feed, to move about and to breed. So this is perfect for them. So the willow that Barry's cut from this area, the trunks of the willow have all been stacked here. We've got a fantastic log pile. A couple of things that this is important for. For slow worms, the invertebrates that they feed on, things like slugs and snails, will hide within this, and earthworms as well, for example. So this will be a good place for slow worms to come and hunt for their food. In addition, it's going to provide some really good cover, and potentially with the size of this, even somewhere that they could hibernate through the winter, because the centre of this pile is likely to be frost free, and that's what reptiles need during the winter, somewhere frost free that they can retire to, that will keep them safe during the winter months. So this log pile could work quite well for slow worms, particularly as both a food source and for somewhere to hibernate. So one of the things that's supremely important for the grass snake is to have somewhere to lay its eggs. And they typically lay their eggs in piles of rotting vegetation, so compost heaps, manure piles, things of that nature. So what Barry's been doing is using some of the arisings from his management work, like these grass cuttings here and some of the tree trimmings, to create effectively a compost heap, and that could be used by grass snakes to lay their eggs. So if you do want to encourage grass snakes and give them somewhere to breed, it's very important to provide structures like a compost heap to allow them to lay their eggs. Very important for that species. So we've looked at some of the elements that reptiles need in a woodland. We looked at the warm areas, we've looked at the pond, which will breed the amphibians that the grass snakes rely on. We've looked at wood piles where the slowworms could shelter and potentially hibernate. And we've looked at the compost heaps where the grass snake could lay its eggs. So now we're going to go and check some of the tins that Barry's laid out and see what we can find underneath them. Right, let's have a quick look under this tin and see what we can find here. So I use a stick just to get the front edge of the tin up, just in case there's something that's going to bite me underneath it, like an adder. Ah, that's interesting. What we've got here is a common toad that's tucked down amongst the wood shavings. Perfect place for it, until such time as a grass snake might want to come along and take it as a meal. But no grass snakes in evidence, but there is a common toad here, which is a lovely thing to see. Right, we'll lift the front of the tin with a stick, just in case there's an adder underneath it. And oh, look at that. We've got two adult slowworms here. They're both females, and there are 3 babies as well. Now the babies look to me as though they were last year's babies. So they're still quite small and they're that beautiful golden colour. And the female that's lying with those babies, she looks to me as though she's pregnant, she's gravid. And she'll give birth probably at the end of August, beginning of September. She's starting to swell up quite nicely now, and that's probably why she's attracted to be underneath the tin, to maintain her body temperature and to help to incubate those developing embryos that she's got inside her. So yeah, fantastic. Right, I'm just going to use a stick again just to lift the... Oh, look at that, 2 grass snakes just shot away. Fantastic to see them under the tin. They were beautifully marked grass snakes. One of them looked like it was a female because it had a slightly fatter body, and we've also got a whole bunch of slowworms under here, and again they're brown and their dark undersides indicate that they're also females. So they're obviously attracted under here to keep warm, keep those embryos inside them developing. But fantastic to see 2 lovely sized grass snakes under this tin. An absolute testament to opening up these areas to make it warmer and more attractive for the snakes to be here. Well, we've had a fantastic morning and we've seen grass snakes and slowworms, all by virtue of the fact that Barry is keeping the areas of his woodland nice and open for them, which gives them the warmth they need. They also need somewhere to hibernate. They need a food source, which in the case of grass snakes is for amphibians. And they also need somewhere to breed successfully, and again for grass snakes that means compost heaps. So it is possible to maintain good populations of reptiles in woodland with a little bit of management that you're probably doing anyway. So they can be great places for our reptiles.